Victoria, like Albert, came to Cedar Point by way of the short-lived Cherokee Railroad. They must have had a Brit in charge of naming engines down there. The youngest and biggest member of the Cedar Point roster, the 040T, or saddle tank engine, was built by H.K. Porter Locomotive Company in March 1942. She probably looked a lot like this in her younger days. For 9 years, she ran on the 38-inch gauge railroad of the Carbon Limestone Company in Hillsville, Pennsylvania as their number 34. Then she was put into storage, where she remained for 13 years. In 1962, she joined the Cherokee Railroad roster. After a quick rebuild, which included conversion to 36-inch gauge, she was christened Victoria and given the number 4. She came to Cedar Point in 1965 and completed the roster there as I knew it in 1967. I believe the number 4 is still in regular service at Cedar Point, but now bears the name George R. in honor of George Roos, who was the founder of the Cedar Point as we know it today. She was a rough riding cob in those days, and quite noisy with that steel cab. Going out the tangent towards Frontier Town, she rocked and rolled so hard that she sometimes set the bell to ringing. You will hear that in a few minutes. But she was a good steamer. Throw in a good fire before leaving Midway, and again at Frontier Town, and that was all she would need. With our one-man engine crews, we liked that. It allowed us to keep an eye on the track ahead and the train behind without any distractions. Something I haven't found in any Cedar Point history so far is mention of the stagecoach ride that ran smack through the Midway track loop. Too bad it doesn't show up in any of my movies. Between the sharp curve, the steep grade, and the stuff the horses left on the track, it was a hard pull out of Midway Station. Okay, there's the highball. Gloria heads for the Midway and Albert heads into a beautiful Lake Erie sunset, I think I have time for one more story. One day I was poking around in an antique shop over around Sandusky, and darned if I didn't find a little steam whistle. So of course I bought it and took it back to show the boys. The next morning we put it on whatever engine we were firing up, the Jenny K I think, just to see what it sounded like. Well, no sooner did we test it out than old Jack came storming around the engine house, way early for him to be out. "Why did we get a new engine?" he demanded. Well, I explained that it wasn't a new engine, just a new whistle. "Well, who put you in charge of whistles? You're fired. Take your time card up to the office and tell them you don't work here no more. We'll have your whistle off in there by the time you get back." Well, I was devastated. Never been fired before, and I really liked old Jack. Well, we all did, and had no intention of making him mad. But I didn't argue with him. No one did. By mid-afternoon, I had my gear packed and loaded in the car and stopped back by the engine house to say goodbye. George was there and handed me the whistle. I gave it back to him, told him it had lost its charm for me. About that time, old Jack came in, took one look at me in my sports shirt and Bermuda shorts, and said, "Clallis, where are you going all dressed like that?" I said, "Well, I'm leaving now." He said, "What do you mean leaving? I need a third train this afternoon, and I sure don't have time to run it. Get your coveralls on and be back here in 15 minutes. I said, but I already turned in my time card like you told me." "Well, I'll explain to him that you misunderstood." Fired and hired back the same day. George didn't offer to give the whistle back, though. A year later, I found him running a shay on the Pine Creek. My whistle was on it. I often wonder where George is now and if he still has that whistle.